Welcome to the Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. I'm so happy you found us. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber One News Radio, KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9.
A good Friday morning to you, and good Friday morning to you, Spencer. How are you doing?
TGIF. Ready for the weekend. How about you?
I am ready for the weekend. We have been up early. Admittedly, I am going to do a pretty much show and go here today as it's Kaiser's 6th birthday.
Oh, wow. Happy birthday to Kaiser. That's great.
Finally made it. What a great kid. And for those who have been listening, longtime listeners have been following this journey for 6 years and 9 months or something like that, however the math works. It's just been really nice, too, when folks stop me on the street and say, oh, how's the fam? How's Kaiser? Like I mentioned, I think last week, you know, we are pretty lucky here at the old Radio Ranch, community radio. There's a lot of folks, I think, that are not familiar with the cutthroat side of the industry, where it's very impersonal.
Yeah.
We at I-Fiber One have decided to take the personal approach and connect with as many folks as we can and, you know, make it a community, family-friendly radio program. At least a Daybreak show. Who knows about those political guys in the middle of the day, but whatever.
No, absolutely. It's true.
So today in the news, the latest on the COVID numbers for Mason County. The state is broadening tests for COVID and a little more on unemployment fraud.
And I'll check the weather for you today and for the weekend. And both days are free days to get into Washington state parks.
Mason County has 36 total confirmed cases of COVID-19, but just one active case. There has been one death related to COVID-19 since the beginning of the pandemic. Beginning Monday, all employees will be required to wear a cloth facial covering except when working alone in an office, vehicle, or at a job site, or when the job has no in-person interaction. Employers must provide these to employees unless exposure dictates a higher level of protection under Department of Labor and Industries. You can refer to the coronavirus facial coverings and mask requirements for additional details. Employees may choose to wear their own, providing it meets the minimum requirements. And of course, again, too many of the local stores and restaurants are opening back up. Before heading into the big city to shop, check out those small businesses in town. You can also learn more at the Mason County EDC. Go over. You can talk with Jennifer or Karin, or just check out choosemason.com.
The Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission invites the public to enjoy 3 free days at state parks in June. On free days, visitors will not need a Discover Pass for day use visits by vehicle. The first free day is tomorrow in recognition of National Trails Day. The next free day is Sunday, June 7th, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife's Free Fishing Weekend. A Discover Pass will not be required on WDFW or Washington State Park lands throughout the Free Fishing Weekend. It will be required both days on lands managed by Washington State Department of Natural Resources, DNR. The third free day is coming up later in the month, Saturday, June 13th, celebrating National Get Outdoors Day. Though most Washington state parks have reopened for day use, the agency encourages visitors to minimize the spread of COVID-19 by recreating responsibly.
Governor Inslee says the state is broadening its testing strategy and now encouraging people with mild symptoms to get tested for the coronavirus. Previously, those with mild symptoms encouraged to stay home, but Inslee said yesterday testing supplies have increased to the point where testing can be expanded, and he says this is important because counties are starting to look at their final stages of reopening, and you got to have I think a good sense of where your population in the county is with coronavirus. So that's encouraging news.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely is. Seattle's police chief says officers' badge numbers will be prominently displayed following complaints by people protesting the death of George Floyd that black bands obscured the digits. Chief Carmen Best said yesterday officers sometimes wear bands over badges to honor colleagues who have been killed while on duty. Mayor Jenny Durkin says authorities continue to speak to community leaders about ways to reduce tensions and improve communication and police policies. Also yesterday, the largest labor union in Seattle demanded that the Seattle Police Officers Guild admit racism is a problem in law enforcement and agree to address it or face being thrown out of the umbrella organization.
And Washington officials say they believe they have recovered about half of the hundreds of millions in unemployment benefits paid to criminals who used the stolen identities to file claims during the pandemic. Officials are still working to determine the final amount paid out fraudulently, but they believe it was between $550 to $650 million.
Wow.
Now, to date, the state has recovered about half that, $333 million, hopes to reclaim more. It was a West African fraud ring. And we talked about this because I know you have personal experience with this. It was from that Equifax breach back in 2017. That's where they think the bulk of the fraud started from. And again, I mentioned the thought was back in 2017 when we heard about this breach, they said, listen, for the majority of folks, right now you're not going to see anything. But there will come a time, there will come a day when the ring or whoever has breached will use this information, and this is that time.
It is, and we knew something was going on when they mistook Governor Inslee for a Nigerian prince of diamond mines. So, I'm sorry. No, this really is. I mean, it shows you that if the government of Washington State can, you know what I mean? It's really, on a serious note, it's scary because, none of us are safe.
And again, today, local news conversations. We got that senior shout-out line, 426-1030, press 0, and Shelton's graduation is going to be June 23rd. More Daybreak Show rolls on this Friday. Good morning to you.
From the iFiber One News Radio studios, you're listening to Daybreak.
This is Steve Kramer from Kramer Tackle with this week's fishing report. This weekend is Free Fishing Weekend in Washington State. You can go fishing with no license required. It's a great time to get out, somebody who's interested in trying it but hasn't bought a license yet. Get some kids out, get your grandparents out, get mom and dad out. Trout and panfish are probably the easiest thing to target to get people some action. I would try Miller Sylvania and fish off the beach for bluegill or for trout. Fishing's been very consistent. Or if you have a small boat, I would definitely hit Summit Lake. The trout fishing's been spectacular. I saw some really nice trout caught at Lost Lake today in Shelton. Some of these fish were up to about 20 inches. Trolling wedding rings and worms, plunking with power bait or worms, both are working really good. The bass fishing is still decent, but most fish have already spawned. I would target any type of structure with Cincos, or mornings and evenings I'd throw black buzzbaits. So if you can, please take a kid fishing. Make sure you check out the recreations page at ifiber1.com. And don't forget my site, KramerTackleandGuide.com. This is Steve Kramer. Thanks for listening and good fishing.
iFiber One News Radio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3 presents Daybreak.
Well, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes on the Daybreak Show. Fridays, we check in with Dr. Alex Apostle from the Shelton School District. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jeff. Nice to be with you.
So it's the 5th of June today, and that means we're closer and closer to what would be the traditional end of the school year, and there's a lot of, obviously, change that has been happening over the last 2 months or so. As you and I have talked over the years, and we kind of look back at the year, we start to look forward to the next year, and there is a lot of questions on the table. We're hearing Monday is a big day for the Office of Superintendent for the state, Chris Rykedal's office.
Absolutely. The information I have is that we're going to get some direction in terms of restarting our schools, and that's going to be very welcome, of course, by many, many people. Families and students and staff, and we're looking forward to getting some direction. Although what I've been hearing and appreciate is that regardless of the direction that we get, there's going to be local decisions that need to be made based on all factors within a community. So it's going to be nice to get some direction, but at the same time, we have to work that through with our staff, with our community, and make sure that we're all together in terms of how schools will reopen.
I was just thinking about that while you're talking, and I know that you put a lot of trust in to the principals in the schools. The principals
Absolutely.
put a lot of trust into the teachers in the school, in the classrooms, to all kind of be able to move the students forward, have them learn the information. For each teacher, the way they provide that information is different. Like the way they facilitate it towards the kids can be different. So when Chris Rykedal offers the ideas or presents them to us, I think, like you said, local control, he needs to put trust in you and the other supers across the state to say, listen, I know my community. We make up a blank percentage of people who have young kids who go to work every day. So this may not work. But as long as at the end of the 180th day of a school year, everybody can acknowledge that the students had made progress, I would assume that would be good. That would be a great report back to the superintendent of the state.
Well, there's no question that's of paramount importance, is the education of our kids and making sure that we do everything possible to provide the support to the families and to the students through these challenging times. But there's no question it's going to be a challenge. And that's why we're involving so many people here initially through our subcommittees, and we're going to reach out even further into the community to make sure there's no perfect answer to the dilemma that we're facing. There just isn't. But we need to try to work together, and we will, to come up with the best possible plan to reopen schools in the Shelton School District. And what meets the needs of our families, we'll do everything we can to meet those needs. But I can tell you right now, it's going to be a challenge, because when you look at our younger elementary kids, our kindergartners, remote learning, will that work? And where do parents fit into all of this? They've got to work, and it's very complicated. But that's why we've started early in terms of working with these subcommittees, and we have a very important meeting with the ESD, our Educational Service District, where our leaders within the district are going to be meeting with the ESD 113, and we're going to talk about what it's going to take in various areas, from communication to instruction. What is it that we need to be aware of, and what are some of the plans that are being circulated around the state and throughout the nation? So that's going to be taking place on the 15th of June, the 17th of June, and the 19th of June all day. And we're going to have about 15 of our leaders involved in that training and information. So that's going to be helpful, but still we need to reach out to our community and make sure we're all together as we begin the process of reopening our schools, which is extremely important.
We've been reporting this week on the graduation information, June 23rd, starting at 10. It is going to be a drive-through type of ceremony, and we're going to try to get as many of the students that are interested in participating to be involved, and it's going to be a very orderly but a wholly different and unique graduation experience for them. I know we're going to try to get it live streamed and some speeches and pre-records and all that stuff. So it's going to be the best as it can be in the situation. But again, June 23rd for Shelton High School graduation, 10 o'clock. And because of this, it's going to be almost an all-day thing, right?
It will be. We're figuring it could go until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but it may be quicker than that and maybe take a little longer. But recognizing our seniors, recognizing our families for all their support throughout the years is a very important tradition. It's a ceremony. It's a celebration of a job well done by our students, our seniors, and their families. So whatever it's going to take, we're going to put forth our greatest effort.
There's one last question on all that's going on across the country. Schools are oftentimes for students and teachers to talk in a confident, secure classroom setting about the issues that are going on around the country and explaining them in the context of historical events and things like that. We saw a peaceful protest in Shelton the other day. Are you talking with any of your teachers or the principals on how to, during these online classes, talk about these types of issues? It's a lot different too with that going on now.
Right. But I think it's a very important issue that needs to be discussed, and we need to have a conversation with our students. It's very important, equality and equity and treating all people with respect and kindness and being civil towards one another. That's absolutely important to discuss. And so it's going to be on our agenda when I meet with all administrators. We meet every Monday at 9:00. This is going to be an agenda item so we can prepare in terms of how we're going to approach this issue with our students and staff.
Dr. Alex Apostle, it is starting to wrap up a untraditional school year, to say the least. But we do appreciate you talking with us every week on keeping the public informed on what's happening in the Shelton School District. And
there'll be more to come, Jeff, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on radio every Friday with you. And I might add that Choice High School, their graduation is going to be virtual, and it's going to be in September. I'm not sure of the exact date yet, but I know that they're planning a celebration and a ceremony for those seniors also. Okay. So I'm looking forward to that too.
Okay, well, we'll reach out to them, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as that gets closer. Dr. Alex Apostle from the Shelton School District, thank you, sir. Be safe, be well, and we'll talk to you next week.
You too, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Daybreak on I-Fiber One News Radio.
Well, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes here on the Daybreak Show. It's Friday, and that means it's a big day for the Rodeo Drive-In in Bremerton. On the phone line, Jack Ondrasik, our engineer. I will say that. He is our engineer for the radio station. I want to get that out there. But also, he is the owner of the Rodeo Drive-In. Morning, Jack.
Good morning, Jeff.
So this is pretty cool. It's been a long time coming. You guys have been shut down, but I want to go back a little bit to March, because you guys and drive-ins across the state, which are limited in number, of course, got a huge boost for about a week or two as things started to shut down. Tell me that story, and then we'll get into what's going to happen today.
We had just opened for the season the second weekend of March. We got that first weekend in, and then the state started closing things down. The governors allowed us to operate because of the fact that people come to the theater in their cars. So there was some built-in social distancing there, and the state felt that we'd be okay. So we reopened under that exemption. It developed a lot of attention for us through the media, and we had huge crowds out at the four drive-ins that are here in Western Washington. And then the next week, the state completely closed down, the drive-ins included. So we'd been shut down since the middle of March. The other drive-ins, as the counties have rolled into Phase 2, have started to open up, and our county just hit Phase 2 last week. So once they did that, we started our preparations to open, and we'll be firing off our first shows on tonight.
So let's talk a little bit about how this works. I was reading some of the other drive-in messages online, and you're at a 50% capacity. So how does that work out? Do people reserve a spot, or is it first come, first served at 50%?
We have gone, most of us, to reserved ticketing, at least to start with. In our case, we're doing both, but by using the reserved ticketing, we know how many slots we have, we know how many people are coming in. It'll make things a little easier to manage at the box office line, because we don't want a lot of people coming in just before showtime and then being disappointed that we have to turn them away because of the 50% restriction. Basically, we'll be putting cars between the poles instead of two to a space like we normally would.
And then the concession stands and that area, how has that been transformed?
Well, the concession stands, in a way, fit into the takeout-only concept that we had under Phase 1. So we were pretty much already doing that before this all hit. We'll be limiting the number of people in the building. We've got the stickers on the floor for the distancing, and we have the plastic guards in front of the cashier stations, and of course the staff will be wearing the masks and face shields that the state's required. So it'll be a fairly familiar picture. Most of what the drive-ins have been able to do will still be there. It'll just be a little bit more spaced out. In our case, we'll be instituting the ability to order food online, and we're just working the details of that out. So if people are more comfortable checking out our menu on their phones in their car, they'll be able to do that as well as attend the snack bar like they normally would in the past.
You can purchase your advance tickets at rodeodrivein.com. I'll put the links to this also on Facebook. So the big question is, what are you showing? What's the movies like this weekend?
That's where it gets a little creative, Jeff. The studios are not releasing any new product right now, and we don't expect that they're going to until next month sometime. So we all wanted to get open, and our communities, all of the drive-ins that have reported that the communities have just really wanted these places open back up. But what we play is going to be a little bit creative because we're all going back into classics libraries to find interesting shows to put on the screen. So in our case, we're going back to Shrek. We've got that playing with the new Trolls World Tour on one of our screens. We've got Hook that'll be playing with Jumanji this week, and then we've got The Invisible Man that we're playing just when we closed, and that'll be playing with The Wretched, which has probably the newest film to come out.
That last one sounds like it leans a little more older, mature audience. That final double.
That screen will be rated R. The other two are PG combinations.
So you have 3 screens. For folks who haven't been to the Rodeo Drive-In, it's on Highway 3 right near the Bremerton Airport. And again, rodeodrivein.com. You have 3 screens up there. How does that work for everybody so they don't hear the other movies all at the same time?
Well, we're using FM stereo for our sound, which is what pretty much all the drive-ins that are left in the country have gone to. The speaker systems that most of us had got old, and the sound wasn't admittedly all that great, and they become kind of a maintenance problem over the years. So as other ways to transmit sound became more available, the drive-ins moved to AM sound, and then in the early 80s we started transitioning to FM, and we've had FM stereo out here since '88, and the speakers are all gone. There's only one drive-in now here in the state that still has a few of them left.
One final thing on the swap meet section. If we get in Kitsap County to a phase 4, I suppose, would be at that point. Are you thinking of bringing this back into maybe later summer?
Yeah, that's a real good question, Jeff. We haven't really decided that yet. We're watching the phases. We're watching what the communities do. One of the things that will be different here for a while is we had to fence off our playgrounds. We've got brand new playgrounds that are very popular with the kids, but for now they are going to have to be blocked off because for sanitation purposes and the like. So. And we don't even know for sure when that will return. So we're kind of watching. The state guidance isn't specific about things like that. So we're watching the schools, we're watching the city parks, other places where playground equipment is located. And as we start seeing them open up, we'll start doing that that here. But as far as the swap meet, it's pretty much the same thing. We want to get it back open, but we're not really sure. And frankly, our focus right now has been on getting the drive-in itself open.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think the swap meet, it'll return. We're just not sure when yet.
Well, it's a big weekend for the Rodeo Drive-In, and you can see some great movies there. Again, make sure, though, when you go to the website, rodeodrivein.com, you click on Purchase Advance Tickets. Now, you do need to make sure you have redemption page, so when you place your order and print it, or your documents have the accurate number of people in your car for the number of tickets purchased. You can see all that on the website. But it's going to be a fun weekend at the Rodeo Drive-In with either Shrek or the new Trolls Hook, which is a classic movie. I love that one. And the new Jumanji, or Invisible Man and the Wretched. That's going to be a fun weekend for you, Jack. I hope everything works well. You stay healthy and safe, and you get a lot of good crowds out there this weekend.
Thank you, Jeff. We're looking forward to it as well.
From the iFiber One News Radio studios, you're listening to Daybreak.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes on the Daybreak Show. Got a couple great guests via Zoom video conference here, and we are talking about an upcoming weekend concert series, Music on the Estuary. From the Salmon Center, Mendy, Harlow, and Anna Robinson. Good morning, y'all. How you doing?
Good morning, Jeff. Great to see you.
Good to see you. Anna, last time we chatted was in the green room before your trip up and down the Continental Divide. Just going back to that quickly, how was it? Everything, you're here, so everything must have worked out well.
Yeah, it was incredible. We survived.
That's awesome. All right, let's talk about the big event, Music on the Estuary. Obviously, because of coronavirus and all that has been happening over the last couple of months, events all across the Mason County and the South Sound have gone digital, and this is another such event. So, Mendy, let's start with you. Let's talk about Music on the Estuary, how it has helped and things like that, and then we'll get into the lineup and how this is all going to work.
Yeah, so Music on the Estuary is our annual fundraiser concert that we usually have down at the Salmon Center on the beautiful Union River Estuary. That fundraiser helps us every year to fund our education programs, as well as some of the farm activities that we have at the Salmon Center. It has also traditionally been a fundraiser for our amphitheater that we are building down at the Salmon Center property as well. So every year we raise funds to support all of those activities.
Well, it's obviously been a tough time now with coronavirus. I'm sure it's impacted the folks, even the visitors to the Salmon Center, until kind of got back to the reopening. And hopefully folks are now able to safely get out there and walk around. So, Anna, talk to me a little bit about, I guess, the lineup and how this is all going to work.
Yeah, so right now the lineup is 3,000 Miles. Emily and I are starting off that Friday, and then we've got a really awesome DJ set that's going to be Friday night by Gus Johnson, who also is a project manager at the Salmon Center. And then on Saturday, we still have a couple more artists that could or could not play, but we for sure have Chris Eakes lined up and Stephen Cayley from Union, Washington. And then on Sunday, we're doing Rob Hill, which is actually Emily's dad, so she might jump in and accompany him a little bit. Some people might be used to seeing them play at Alderbrook on the summer and on the deck in the summer. And then Brittany Kingery, who's from Texas, and a band from New York called Those Guys.
So I would imagine that this, although it's unfortunate that we're not going to be able to gather, these musicians are, I'm sure, looking for opportunities to play. And a lot of the issues when it comes to artists is the travel costs. So this has got to be pretty good. So it's a 3-day event. How does this work on the time of day type of stuff?
So because it's virtual, you can really, you can watch it from anywhere. So if you're out in your yard doing work on Sunday morning, you can have the live stream going and listen to some cool music, or having your morning coffee or having dinner Saturday, you can do the live stream. So it also means that we can reach a lot more people. So because we've got, an artist from Texas that's going to play, and artists that are in New York that are going to play, we have people from all over the country that can stream in, and we can reach a much broader audience.
Mendy, are there some ways that in between the artists or anything like that, you're talking about the Salmon Center to those folks all across the country and just keying them in on the great work that you guys do up there?
Yes, definitely. So we are having breaks in between the different artists, and so we will be talking a lot about our different activities at the Salmon Center, so both education and then also our restoration work. So it's definitely a great opportunity for folks all over the country to learn about what we do at the Salmon Center.
One thing that I may not be seeing, or there's not a note on this, is the cost. Normally there's tickets to these events, and this is a fundraiser, as you mentioned. How are folks able to support the Salmon Center? They watch this, and then they want to support you.
Yeah, so there will be a Donate Now button on Facebook, as well as on our website. There's also donate buttons that folks can donate to the Salmon Center. We're not charging for folks to get online to watch the show. It's more just as people want to donate, they will be able to donate to our cause.
Very cool. Any special hashtags or anything that people should link if they're listening somewhere? They tag anything? You got something like that? Music on the Estuary or whatever?
Yeah, I feel like hashtag Music on the Estuary 2020 or hashtag MOAT 2020.
There we go, MOAT. I like it. Very cool. Well, this is an exciting event, and it's very cool that you guys have decided to, one, continue it, and two, figure out a way to continue it during this next year. Hopefully, we'll be all back and going. How's the amphitheater project going, Mendy, before I let you go?
Going well. We've raised about $18,000 for it, so we still have about $40,000 to go. But
okay.
It's a long, slow process, but we're getting there.
Well, hopefully there is some funds coming in from across the country as people all over the place are going to be hanging out this next weekend. It is June 12th through the 14th, and it's going to be a live stream at the Salmon Center's Facebook page. We'll put the links to that, of course, in the show notes. Some great music. Anna, Mendy, good to see you guys. Good to talk with you. And let's check in after, see how it all went.
Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening to today's Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. Again, I'm so happy and honored you found us and chose to listen. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of some of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber 1 News Radio KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Thank you so much again, and talk with you next time.